In the next hour, we want to put a smile on your face, elevate your endorphins, and bring you happiness. Welcome to Say Yes, Be Happy with Nathalie Botros. We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness, it might just be where you least expect it to be. Nathalie and her guests are going to show you how and where to find it. And now, your host, Nathalie Botros.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. Welcome to my show, Say Yes, Be Happy, where each week I interview an amazing guest about a different subject of our daily life. And we find the silver lining, the positive about life and the happy in everything we do. This week, we're going to talk about our brain. And I'm going to discuss with my guest about how restoring your brain's natural balance can make you feel relaxed, rebooted, revitalized anytime and anywhere. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest. He pioneered the use of brainwave entertainment to improve clarity, sleep, energy, and remains at the forefront of scientific research. He founded BrainTap with the goal of making this technology accessible to everyone. He's an award-winning author speaker. He has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, People, Entrepreneur, Inc., and on ABC, NBC, CBS as an expert in brain health and wellness. Please welcome Dr. Patrick Porter. Hello.
Hello, Nathalie. It's great to be here. Thanks for you're always a pleasant smile to get to. So when you say you want people to smile, you're always smiling. It's so nice.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you're here. And I have so many questions about how you started and about BrainTap. So let's start. How everything started for you? How did you get into the field?
Well, I got into the field, I'll get to that in a little bit, but my dad actually started us out. He was a chronic alcoholic. And when he went to get help, the church actually had him go to a relaxation seminar, and it helped him so much that he went home to his family and said, hey, we're going to teach everyone in our family to relax. So it was learning to relax first, which was a form of meditation through a group called Silva. So the Silva method, and my dad became an instructor. Then I began doing seminars with him. And of course, I was never going to do what Dad did. I was just helping him set up chairs and doing the seminars, but then I started doing it in a way that I started presenting and enjoying it. And I got an opportunity to be a part of a team back in the 80s that invented the very first portable light and sound machine, which was called the MC Square. And from that, what I did was I went to, we got an award at the Consumer Electronics Show as the best new gadget in 1989. But this was before CDs, before cell phones were really that popular. We had bag phones back then. It was totally different.
Yeah.
But what happened was I started a franchise company, and for 27 years ran that company. So people would have to come through our franchise to experience the technology. So in 2006, when I sold the company, I didn't sell the rights to my IP or my intellectual property, so I could build whatever I wanted. So I started experimenting, playing around. And then in 2013, we actually created what I call the most advanced portable light and sound machine ever created, because there was nothing before that. And we've included light, sound, and vibration into it in ways that now we can measure, which is pretty exciting. So in the past, we would just do something called, we would look at breath rate, heart rate, hand temperature, different things like that, something called biofeedback. Now we have neurofeedback, so we can read the brain. And so now with the science that's out there, we can actually prove what's going on in the brain. And so there's a lot of exciting things, and I've just been blessed to be on this journey, and I feel like I don't work a day in my life. This is something I used to do for my dad, and so I feel like it's just an extension of what I did when I was a kid. It's a lot of fun still.
That's amazing. So, and then you put all your knowledge and you created BrainTap, which is an application that we can have access on. Tell us about BrainTap. Yeah. What is it exactly?
So BrainTap can be done on an app, right, on your phone. We have however many billions of these phones are running around. We thought, wow, we could deploy mental health digitally across the world. And we're in 120 different countries right now, and we have 2,400 clinics. So we're making headway, but there's still a lot of people that need the help, right? So yeah. The app is one way to do it. And with the app, we'll probably talk a little bit about it later, but the app you can get really good results with. We showed that it's just not as fast as using the full headset, which they can see behind me. You know, the headset on the mannequin there.
Mhm.
And what we've done there is that's how you upgrade the experience. So we like to tell people watching a movie on your iPhone is good, but if you watch it at IMAX, it's even better. So the
Enhance, yeah.
headset kind of makes it like a IMAX experience, total immersion, training the brain with light, sound, and vibration. And the neat thing is that we know that 100% of the people who use this equipment are going to get to the destination or the brain training that we're talking about. And I'm not exaggerating. As long as there's not an organic problem with the brain, something going on through damage, we have done test after test after test, study after study, and everyone follows the algorithm now. Now, back in the 80s, we couldn't say that because we didn't know how to really measure it. But now we've so perfected our neuro algorithm that anybody can do it. Now, it doesn't always happen in the first session because it's just like any other training, but about 60% will go there in the first session. And then the other about 20% will go the next time. And then by the third session, everyone's following. And it's basically like taking you on a trip, like a musical journey or a video journey, but we're taking the brain through a journey of really different brain waves to train the brain so that it identifies with those brains and gets unstuck. The key thing that we're talking about here is people get stuck in their limbic brain, the fear, the frustration. I mean, when all you have to do is turn on your television set and you'll be scared to death, you know, if you start watching broadcast news, because there's no good news coming out of there. I mean, there's a lot of good news out there. I'm going to tell people we have a lot more good news happening in the world than bad news, but unfortunately people won't watch it. So, you know, we've got to change that, right? We've got to become more positive, smile more, be happy, as you say. So,
Exactly.
you know, that's why I'm here, is because your mission and our mission line up so nicely.
So, I mean, we're gonna go into that in the app, but before that, how can you increase happiness and energy using you know, like these principles?
Okay. Right. Well, number one, just psychologically, your psychology affects your physiology. So if you have a positive mental attitude, which means that you have a positive outlook on life, you've actually upregulated all of your, or at least 2,300 gene expressions. So this isn't a game anymore. We know that our thoughts literally change the way we show up and interact with our family, friends, coworkers, even with ourselves while we're alone. So that's number one. Number two is we're going to use sound frequencies. So sound frequencies, our ear is hearing 25,000 pieces of information every second. So our brain has to filter out what's most important, and it loves patterns. So we put patterns into the message that are they're subaudible, which means you could hear them if we took away the what's called backmasking, the music and all of that. It's all blended together, so it sounds good, so your brain will follow it. But the brain is following it. Now, your brain is used to taking in energy through sound. All we have to do, Natalie, is remember back to a party that we were with a friend or family member. We really didn't want to go, but we got there and they started playing music we really liked. Pretty soon we start tapping our toe, we start shaking our behind, and we get up and start dancing because our body is used to taking that sound and transforming it into something called ATP. And that ATP is energy for the cells. Now, another great way to get energy into the cells is through light, appropriate light. So we use finely tuned light that uses 470 nanometer light and 860 nanometer light. And this light is what happens during sunrise and sunset. So it's basically telling the body to wake up and have energy. Now at night, we use another algorithm that puts the body to sleep. So we take people from one state to another. So in the morning when you're tired, we move you from being tired to being awake. In the middle of the day, we bring you from being exhausted to being recharged. In the night, we bring you from being charged up to going to sleep. We even have sessions that take you from not knowing to knowing, because we've got a whole series on books where I've condensed my favorite business books and put them into BrainTap sessions. And all of that leads to energy, because light, unfortunately, light is the most underprescribed nutrient on earth. And of course, during the last year and a half or so, telling people to stay in the house is probably the worst thing they could do for their immunity, because the light tells our body what to do. So we need to get outside, ground, and do that. So we're going to use, I like to tell people, we take ancient traditions and we make modern technology, because these are all things that they used to do in ancient times. Yeah. But we got away from it because we're so technology driven that we forgot what our body needs, and we keep just thinking what our mind needs. And our mind has evolved quite a lot, of course, since the Serengeti, when we were all running around at that time, because our genetics all come from that same place. But then our bodies are still the same. So we have different moods, different way we experience things. So if we can, I don't think anyone out there would argue, if you have energy, you're more pleasant, you're more positive, you make better decisions, your physiology is more erect. I mean, if a lot of times just to change your mood, just change your physiological state. You roll your shoulders back, roll your chin upward, take a few deep breaths, just think something happy. Think of something that brings you joy or something you're grateful for. And if you can't find that, then start forgiving everything, because you got to clear out all that negativity. If that negativity is weighing you down, then you can't see your true light. And everyone has the potential to be a light into the world and not be the darkness that sucks the life out of everyone else. So
No,
we want
it's
to be,
true. Yeah.
we want to be energized.
Exactly. I mean, like we want to detox from all this negativity and then like just surround ourselves by positive and happy. Like it's my mission. And also I know that our brain has such a function. The memories of a good trip can make you happier than buying a new car, like purchasing something. It's like the memory, because like it will make you feel the whole body, that happiness from the inside out. So it really makes sense. Like all this technology makes sense. But so changing your brain can like literally change like the whole thing. But you talk about sound healing as well. So can you explain us sound healing?
Okay. So sound, way back when, let's say we were out hunting and gathering as our genetic ancestors did. And at the end of the day, we're going for survival here. It's very different than what we have now. I mean, we didn't know, we couldn't go to the grocery store, right? So we're out there hunting or gathering. At the end of the day, either we got what we needed or we didn't, but either way, it was stressful. You're out there hunting and gathering. And so you get back to the tribe, and what they would do typically, not every night, but quite occasionally, the shaman of the tribe or the leaders would start a drum circle. They'd have the fire burning. Well, this is really one of the first light and sound machines, because if when somebody's drumming, and if you haven't been to a drum circle, I'm going to encourage everyone listening to find it in your area as soon as they become available to you. Go to a drum circle, because what you'll find is the drumming will put a certain rhythm and cadence. I tell people it's very similar to what we call the gamma frequency. Gamma has a 40 hertz frequency in the brain. It's the bass drum. It basically regulates all other brain functions. Although it's so high, most people don't realize that. So as you have this bass drum going, but when somebody starts drumming, the body starts matching that frequency. So to the degree that it can match it. Now, when you add light, like a fire actually burns at 10 hertz frequency. What that means is it burns at alpha. Alpha is the frequency just below beta, which is where we're talking right now. And we're reactionary at this level because we have to be. We have to interact with our world. We have to drive our cars, answer our emails, whatever we have to do, we have to be awake. But when we start getting into that altered state of alpha and theta, now we can unlock all of that nervous energy. And when we do that, when we unlock it, like people have experienced hopefully something called island time before. That's where you're driving across town and you left to go see grandma or go see somebody, and you knew you were driving and you went through all the stoplights, you negotiated through all the traffic, but when you got there, you're like, how did I get here? What happened? I mean, you're kind of in, they call it road hypnosis or something. You're in this, and people do this in TV too, or movies. They get sucked in so fully that they forget about everything else around you. And there's something liberating about that, because if we stay stuck in our fears, our frustrations, our anxieties, the brain literally begins to create the neuro information that is going to cause your body to slow down its metabolic rate. It's going to cause you to have fear, frustration. All of these there's one thing that's really in common with them is breathing. When you're happy, having fun, enjoying a state of gratitude and love, you breathe very deeply. But when you're in a state of anger, frustration, fear, resentment, you breathe very shallow. So that also affects these neurochemicals. Our brain is the most powerful pharmacy on earth. So we need to learn how to open the doors and become our own pharmacist with our thoughts, right? So once we start thinking healthy thoughts, just smiling, as you said, it's going to upregulate neurochemistry. So just the act of physically smiling, even that's why fake it till you make it. Go into your bathroom if you're feeling sad, just start smiling and talking about how you love yourself. And and at first you might not be able to do it as well, but you got to get through that and start loving and appreciating who you are, so that the true self, your true potential, can be realized on a daily basis.
I totally agree. You know, I used to do this experience with my niece and nephew when they were crying. In the middle of their cry, I will say, I bet you cannot laugh now. They will like, you know, like at the beginning be shocked, like, what are you talking about? And then they will start laughing and it will be over, you know, like, so if kids can do it, we can do it. And I think we should fake it until we make it. And smiling has a big
Right.
impact on our lives.
There's actually a Tibetan, they call it the haha mantra, because they would sit in circles, the circles of laughter, and just laugh.
That's
You know,
great.
so, and I've done this before with big groups where I had them all laughing, and then I would ask them to remember their greatest fear, and they would stop. And then I'd say, they start laughing again. I say, remember your greatest fear. Pretty soon their fear became a laughter process. It triggered their laughter. And so then it triggered their physiology to take action and overcome that fear, because most fears are not real. They're false evidence appearing to be real. And we can transform those by transforming our own physical, mental, and emotional state.
So associating the fear to laughter, and then they start laughing. They think they're scared. They think, and then they associate with laugh. They start laughing, and then they get over. Basically,
that's
is
right.
that it?
Yeah, basically, you can't have two corresponding emotions at the same time. The brain will always pick the dominant one. So if you give the energy to the fear gets bigger and consumes us. If you give the laughter or the gratitude or the love, whatever it is, that space, it's like, where does the darkness go when you turn on the light in a room? It's still there, but the lightness just makes it so it's not present. It doesn't have any influence at that point. The light shines, and that you just got to keep your light bright, and so that darkness doesn't consume you.
Amazing. So we're about to take our first break, and when we come back, we're gonna see how you use all this technology on BrainTap and how it can help us to be happy, skinny, relaxed, everything that you want. Like, it makes you just amazing.
Yes.
We'll see you just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host, and I'm talking with Dr. Patrick Porter about our brain, how it can help us to have a better life, and especially the app BrainTap. So I want to dig into this app, to BrainTap.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded it, and like, I have a lot of questions around, but I want you first to explain how all what we discussed before the break, all these technologies can apply on the app.
Okay, so the first, there's many different, we call them health hacks. So we're basically shortcutting what it would take to do naturally. So the first thing, of course, we have positive psychology. So if people know that, we're going to get you thinking positively. We have to change the internal dialogue. They say that if we could listen to our internal dialogue, we probably wouldn't be friends with ourselves. You know, we don't treat anybody that way that keeps us around. So we need to be more pleasant and positive to ourselves. That's number one. Number two, we have different sound frequencies. So there's 4 different sound frequencies that are going on with the app. Besides music. Music is one big one, but we keep that to itself. So the others are binaural beats, which basically train the brain because it works on a frequency response where we send one signal in one ear, another signal in the other, and the brain actually doesn't hear either. So for instance, if I put 200 hertz in one ear, 230 in the other, then 210 in the other, we would have 10 hertz between them. That would be alpha. So the brain would match that. They call the science frequency following response. And then what we did is we layered on top of that 3 different other frequencies. One is called isochronic tones. These are mono frequencies. So you could actually listen to the app without earphones, but it works much better with earphones. But if somebody can, or if they have a child that can't wear earphones, they can still play it in the room with that, because it's going to train the brain. It's going to mirror the same entrainment. And then we put in there solfeggio frequencies or Noget frequencies. These are frequencies that the body has learned over time to respond to. Their natural frequencies and things that happen. They're present in the universe or in the world. Just like if we were to sit by the water, we would have a resonant frequency of 10 hertz frequency because a body of water resonates to that. the mountains resonate to 7.8 hertz frequency. So we're using sound to mimic that frequency. But also, then on top of that, we have light. The reason we use light in the eyes and in the ears, your eyes are not just attached to your brain. Your eyes are brain matter. So when somebody says to you, wow, you got beautiful eyes, Natalie, then what they're really saying is you got a beautiful brain, because that's what they're seeing. They're seeing brain matter. And that the eyes actually are a great way to deliver light into the brain. Now, this is what used to be done in ancient times. Remember, we're taking ancient traditions in modern technology. So they used to do something called sun gazing. And they knew if you would sun gaze by looking at the light from the sun in the morning and in the evening at specific times, then you could actually reset your gut biome, which is pretty phenomenal, because our body is tuned to light. And we can go into that a little bit later too.
Yeah.
That light frequency, the body actually absorbs that light, it moves the hemoglobin in the blood. It takes that light and takes the photic charge, or the energy, and circulates it through the body to find those cells that are dying. In science, they call it apoptosis. And then what happens though, with that cell gets the energy before it dies, it restarts the Krebs cycle, which means it brings that cell back to life. And the light throughout the body, that's one of the good ways. And also the ears regulate how much heat our brain is experiencing, or cooling it down. So it can either bring more blood to the brain or take blood out of the brain to regulate the temperature of the brain, so that we stay in that optimum zone. And what we find is that we can actually work with TBIs, dementia, even Alzheimer's. We just finished the Alzheimer's Summit, and
that's amazing.
We talked about the science. We have some pretty good research on that too, that people can find on our site. So with those really 6 technologies, we put them all together. So you don't have to have 6 different, each one of those, by the way, has been very successful. If you research any one of those, they've all had great results. So if somebody's out there going, well, I do this one or I do that one, we put together synergizing technologies that separately they're really good, but together they're
amazing. Yeah. So let's talk practical. I downloaded the app, and then first of all, like I have 3 options. Like the beginning is 3 options. One of them, it's only voice. The other one is sound. It's voice and sound. The second one is sound. And then the third one is with the headset, the experience with the headset. Right. If we don't have the headset, we can still live the same experience. The headset from BrainTap, it will be okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're still going to get really good results. What we found was, like one study we just did in Australia, which we did a sleep study with people working in the coal mines, is that it just took a little longer, almost twice as long to get there with the app alone. But if you can't afford the headset, which isn't that expensive, but if you can't afford it, the app is a great way to go. It just takes a little bit more time. So instead of maybe listening once a day or every other day, you would need to listen to it 2 or 3 times a day to get that fast result.
Okay. Yeah. And so you have like several options. You can get like download for sleep, for weight loss, for children. You have other things as well. So how do they work? For example, I know that a lot of my listeners, they will want to know about the weight loss.
So in weight loss, when we were featured in People magazine as far back as 2006. And we help people take half their weight off and keep it off for more than 5 years in the article. So they contacted us, and that's not the exception. That's the rule, because once you change your mindset, there's a saying in psychology, or one of the laws of psychology states, you can't be a behavior. But people get up every morning and say, I'm overweight. And then their subconscious mind says, okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can slow. But most people don't understand is that stress is more fattening than chocolate. So the one stressful event, your liver produces as much sugar as a candy bar. So the first thing for any weight loss is you've got to get your stress under control, because that also deregulates your hormonal system, your brain function. Everything goes out of whack because the body is in fight or flight, in fear-based mode. So that's one thing. Number 2 is we found that just by relaxing the body, we have statistical information that shows that we can boost metabolism between 25 and 30% just by doing a BrainTap session. So your body regulates.
Which one is that? Let's put it down.
They all do it. They all do it.
Yeah.
But the weight loss ones are specific because they're going to give you specific actionable items. So there's 54 sessions. So what we recommend people do is, depending upon how much weight you want to lose, we find that people lose just under a pound a week. But you'd listen to one each week, hardwired in, then listen to the other, or listen 2 or 3 times to one, go to the next one. It's really important that you listen to alternate sessions, because your brain gets habituated, which means the brain will treat the new information like it's wallpaper instead of new information. That's why people do the YouTube thing. And you can't just listen to 40 hertz frequency to get the gamma response. The brain after 3 to 4 minutes will say, okay, I got that. It'll just go bye-bye. You have to change it up every 3 to 5 seconds. And we've been working on this a long time, over 30 years. So we're able to measure it with equipment that shows how quickly can we move the brain and keep it coherent. Coherent means working together.
Yeah.
So that's really key to what happens. And like, for instance, with weight loss, the biggest thing is it's not usually what's you're eating that's the biggest problem. It's what's eating you.
Head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we need to change that. We need to change that mindset around weight loss and transform you from the inside out and get you thinking. Our body knows exactly what to do. Just like when we cut ourselves as a child, we skinned our knee or our elbow. We were in pain for a little bit. Mom or dad kissed it, put a Band-Aid on it. We didn't think about it until we took it off and saw, hey, it's healed. The body can do the same thing for anything that's going on for you, but we've got to get rid of all the stress, the tension, the anxiety, and get you focused on it. Of course, eating the right foods is part of that, but most people will also agree that when they're high energy and they're positive, they're eating better foods. It's like the negative emotional states drive you to eat negative emotional foods. Yeah. So they call them, even though it's a bad word, they say they're comfort foods, but what it does, it basically just changes your state, but it makes it worse. So we want to upregulate people's brains. And we talked a little bit before about even like smoking and addictions. The same thing exactly with a smoker or somebody who's an addict. If you stand up at a meeting, and I'm not against AA, but I just think that a 2% success rate with a program doesn't mean it's working, but it does give people a venue to go to and start working. But eventually you got to graduate from getting up and saying, I'm an alcoholic. Now, I don't believe anybody can drink alcohol and be okay. So I'm not saying that, but there are some people that really can't have alcohol, right? They have 1 or 2 drinks and it basically hijacks their brain. What's hijacking their brain is sugar. So their brain doesn't know how to regulate after those 2 drinks. And then they're trying to self-medicate. So the same thing's true there, that I'm not saying that you can use BrainTap if you're an alcoholic and then drink. You still don't want to drink because your body has a propensity to do that. And I know that my family's history is that way. So you have to just be careful of what you're doing, but I don't think you should be a slave to anything. I mean, you should be able to do without things and without, do things. But the main thing within the AA structure is we used their steps in our series, because I believe they're true. The one step that I think most addicts of any kind leave out, which is, I think, is paramount. You're not going to get the change if you don't do it, is there is a power greater than you. If you don't tune into that power, and I don't care what you call it, you could, your religion really doesn't matter. I'm talking about the spiritual you.
Of course,
the real you. You've got to tap into that power greater than yourself, because we're not doing all of this. I'm not keeping my heart beating 86,000 times a day. I'm not keeping my lungs breathing 21,000 times a day. I'm not changing the cells in my body 50,000 cells per second. If I had to do that, I'd forget. I mean, I'd get stressed out. But there's this power greater than us that we all connect to and with. And of course, if you have a religious bias, then you want to focus on that. Whatever's going to bring you, because we have a propensity to seek out things that are bigger than us, that to be a part of. And we can't be disconnected from this source. Yeah. So, but a lot of people can deny the source, or it's almost like having a great friend that's always giving you great advice, but you never listen to them. That's our intuition.
No, it's true. No, it's true. But I just got a question. Someone is asking, so we can, use the BrainTap weight loss thing without doing any diet, we will still lose weight?
Right. We did a study with our chiropractors, and what we found out was, of course, they changed their diet, but we didn't tell them what they needed to do. So we tell you we're giving you instruction to be healthy. There's a saying that we really abide by. It's called, there is no there. So people think there's an end result. There is no diet that works. you have a diet, which means how do you eat every day? You need to change.
It's a diet, yeah.
Yeah. So you need to change the way you eat forever, because whatever you're eating right now and whatever you're doing right now caused you to be where you're at. So obviously you're going to be changing things, but I'd rather it be your decision. Your subconscious mind is like a fourth grader. And if you've ever argued with a fourth grader, you know you never win.
Of
So
course.
I don't, but if the fourth grader decides to do something like with my kids, if I could persuade them that it was their decision to clean their room or do the yard work or do these kind of things because something we were doing together, now they want to do it. So think of, we're going to convince the subconscious, which is always there. It wants to do what's right for you. It wants to do what's good for you. And as long as we focus on the underlying positive intention of those behaviors, your subconscious will deliver to you good suggestions, because we're always making decisions. We can decide to eat healthy, think healthy, be healthy. It's pretty simple, really, when you break it down to the most common denominator. We need to eat healthy, think healthy, sleep well, be active and move.
Yeah.
And, basically live like Lucille Ball did in the 50s. If you look at what people did and get rid of all these toxins we have, the toxins that are in our environment, those have to be cleared out for the body to regulate and be as healthy as possible.
I totally agree with you. I think, of course, there is a problem with what we eat if we overweight. And then I believe in body positive as long as you're healthy. Mm-hmm. And then you should lose weight if you have health problems. Otherwise, don't try to fit in to a cookie cutter. But it's true that when we're happy, the happiness diet, we don't focus on food, because when you think I'm going to be on a diet, you start focusing on losing weight. And then you're like, I cannot eat this, I cannot eat that. And then you start eating everything. It's it right. becomes an obsession. As you said, little kids, you tell them don't touch, they will keep touching. Or let's go even back, Adam and Eve, they said don't eat the apple. What happened? They ate the apple. Right. I mean, it's really, I think BrainTap helps us to change our mindset and change our lifestyle, and not get on a protein diet or on a, vegetarian right. diet, or on the latest black dress of diet. Right.
Well, one thing about doing BrainTap, what it does, it puts what you want to accomplish into first position. So first position is a good example of that is you just bought an automobile. You're driving it off the lot. Now you're seeing that car everywhere. I remember my wife bought a van and she said, this van, nobody has vans like this, blah, 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 blah. And I started laughing. She goes, what are you doing? What are you laughing at me for? I said, these vans are all over the place. I said, let's go for a drive. And we saw 15 of them in a short 20-minute drive. And I said, they weren't in her reticular activating system. So that means that solution, if chocolate's the only thing that you can choose as your end result for stress, then you're going to go for chocolate. Hopefully it's a 80% or more cocoa chocolate, but
it's healthier.
Or if it's alcohol or drugs or abusive nature, some people get addicted to being abusive. Of
course. No, I totally agree. Dr. Porter, we're about to take our second break. And then when we come back, I want to continue about that, because I want people to understand the difference and how BrainTap can help us. We will see you. I'm talking with Dr. Porter, and we're talking about BrainTap. We will see you just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. I'm talking with Dr. Patrick Porter about our brain health, and especially the app that is called BrainTap that will change your life. So just before the break, we were talking about one of the apps bundles, which is weight loss, and which can really, it's not going to give you a diet. So it's going to change your lifestyle and make you by listening, you will be happy. So you will stop focusing on food and changing your lifestyle in a happy way. A question about BrainTap. Is it a hypnosis? Is it meditation? What is it exactly?
Well, my background is all of those things. I mean, I went to school for psychology, Christian psychology. So Obviously, it has some of that in there, positive psychology. And then we have my training. I trained with the Ericksonian hypnosis out of medical hypnosis out of Scottsdale, Arizona, which was very good. I also trained with Richard Bandler, John Grinder, all the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for those who don't know that. But I have my own book. It's called Discover the Language of the Mind, where I summarized all of these. So if somebody really wants to know what's involved with it, and all those pieces are part of it, but we don't, with this, you don't have to do, most people think of hypnosis as somebody talking to you, telling you to go into this deep state and doing these things.
Yeah.
Where we don't need to do that anymore with the light sound technology. Our goal is not to hypnotize you, but to create brain fitness. We want your brain to operate better. Just so the listeners know, we're right now in a larger study of 150 students in Brazil, but we did a pilot study here in New Bern, North Carolina, where we took a group of people and we had a 45-minute session that they listened to. We hooked them up with EEG, heart rate variability. And we had the first 5 minutes, we did all the scans, what we call baseline in research. We're trying to find out what their nervous system's doing, what their physiological system's doing. And so we got that baseline. We had them listen to a piece of music that was, relaxing. And it did exactly what we thought it would. It down-regulated the stress, got them relaxed and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the 15 minutes of listening to the music, every person in the study went right back to their stressed brain. It didn't have an effect. It was an experience, but it didn't have an effect of brain training. We took that same piece of music at the same time. We gave them 5-minute washout, which meant they just sat there and did some breathing exercises. Then we played the same piece of music, but this time we put our algorithm in the background. At the end of 15 minutes, the brain didn't return back to its negative state. It stayed in that positive state. And it took about 72 hours for the brain to go back to where it was when they didn't do anything. Now, of course, if they would have brain tapped the next day, they would have interrupted that pattern. And the more you interrupt the baseline pattern to be more efficient, you become more and more superhuman, because that's what we are. Our brain and its potential is beyond anything we could imagine. But if we just let it basically regulate itself, it's like physically working out. If you only go to the gym one time, you're going to get sore, but you're not going to get a lot of muscle growth. But if you go consistently over time, you're going to build the muscle, you're going to be stronger. And actually, physical exercise is good for the brain as well. So you want to be doing those things.
Yeah. So someone is asking, how long are the sessions per day? I mean,
So we have sessions in the morning that you can listen to them any time other than at night, because they would keep you up. But we have 10-minute sessions. We call those digital coffee, because they take you from a groggy state to a recharged, revitalized state. And then we have most of our sessions, we probably have 100 of those kind of sessions for the morning, just to wake your brain up. We have actually a bundle called Wake Up. So it's pretty self-explanatory.
So and you choose among those, or like you have to listen all the 100 of them?
No, you can just rotate through them. We want to have the flexibility to have neuroplasticity, which means you got to have the variety to create the brain change. And then we have sessions that are 20 to 30 minutes, depending upon what you want to listen to, that are we call them transformational sessions. They could be, those are the ones about smoking, weight loss, stress-free childbirth, learning, mind over menopause. We have over 1,000 of those. So these are all series, which means there's always more than 7. Usually there's 13 to 20. And that's because depending upon how long it takes to make that change, we have to have enough content that your brain doesn't get bored. And every session is different. It's uniquely encoded, so the brain can't guess the algorithm. I mean, it can, I guess, if you gave it enough time, but you're going to be mixing it up. It can't memorize 1,000 sessions. There's just no way it can do that unless you're didactic in that way. But we have sleep sessions where you put them on right before you go to sleep. You can use the headset or not. Most people will use the headset, but if you're light sensitive, you wouldn't use it at night. You would just put on the app. You could put it on your room, listen to the message. It's going to take you into deep delta, which is the deep sleep state necessary to really clean and detox your brain. And but you can you wouldn't want to listen to the morning sessions at night, and you wouldn't want to listen to the night sessions in the morning, but it's going to teach the brain to regulate. The others you can listen to anytime you want, whatever you feel is best for you. The best time we find for recovery is anytime around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But if you're working a job where you can't just go do a BrainTap session, do it when you get home from work, and what our research shows is you can reclaim up to 80% of the energy you had in the morning by doing that session at 2 o'clock or right after work.
Exactly. And how many per day? Like you advise at least 3 sessions, one in the morning to wake up, one during the day, and one at night. And if we have time, like an extra one for something that we're
one thing for the
interested.
listeners to know is that 21 days doing that is best, because then you're going to really give your brain, but then at least listening once a day will maintain that and maybe continue to grow that change. But if somebody has like dementia, we did a study where we took women 55, 65 for 6 weeks. They did it 3 times a day. At the end of that, they were all diagnosed. They all took the testing. They all had brains that were out of regulation, which meant their left hemisphere was moving slower than the right hemisphere. 6 weeks later, just doing BrainTap, nothing else. We didn't change their diet. We didn't do, there's a lot of other things you can do to improve dementia. We were just trying to prove out BrainTap. 49% neuroplastic change, which means 49% more energy in the brain to make decisions, to process their day. But the biggest thing to me happened with the 58% reorganization skill, which means when something bad happened to them, they were 58% of the time faster reorganization, which meant they went back to their normal baseline that much faster. So that's what happens when your nervous system gets locked. Something basically knocks you off your game, if you will. You're not feeling all the joy anymore. How fast can you get back to that joyful state? That's what we're changing. And then we actually could measure the change in the brain. Every person in the pilot study, their brain balanced within 6 weeks. So that's in a bigger study now. It's we're still recruiting people for that study. We have close to 50 people right now, and we're doing that with all of our doctors that have the WAVI system across the country, so that we can get as many brains as possible into the study to prove what's going on there.
So basically 30 minutes a day, instead of looking Instagram or like any social media and comparing your body or yourself to other people's life, if you can concentrate on yourself, it can make wonders, basically.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
I mean, really, 30 minutes, it's nothing. It's like, that's the minimum. And then like, if you have time, you get more, I guess you get kind of addicted in a good way.
In a good way, yeah.
And so, but for example, I have listeners from all around the world. Which languages do you have, can we have access on BrainTap?
Well, we have a lot. I don't have them all memorized.
But I mean, like, we have a lot. We have the option.
Yeah, we have German, we have French, we have Portuguese, we have
so that's
Chinese, Japanese. We have the most we have is Spanish. We have a lot in Spanish because we do a lot in Mexico and in South America.
Okay, so that's really a good thing. And also, there's another bundle in the app that's, for me, it's fascinating. It's for the kids. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, most kids, thank God, they don't need a lot of theta training, which is what adults need.
Yeah.
But they do need to regulate how their brain handles things, especially because of technology. If you could see a child's brain playing computer games, I swear you would never let them play it. What I try to do with my grandson is, if he's going to play it, then afterwards he's got to do a BrainTap session and a light treatment session to get his brain back to normal, because it really looks like somebody who's been drinking, especially these kind of stressed out games. So these kids, they're stressed out too. You know, they're super stressed. So we got to teach them a way to get rid of their stress. What I did with my kids, and I always recommend, somebody says, how do you deal with your kids with this? I said, well, first of all, we try to do a daily practice. We call it brain prep. We work with a school in India called the Creative School, and they have a BrainTap in every classroom. So if the child's feeling stressed out or worried or has negative emotions, they can go back anytime at their discretion and do a BrainTap session, which is pretty powerful. Yeah, when I go to visit them, they all know me. It's a great time. We have some on my social media. They can see me going there. But the other thing is, every morning before they start, they do a group session. They don't use the headset because they don't have enough for everybody in the school, but they do brain prep with BrainTap to get their brains ready. And then they do yoga or martial arts. They switch that off every day. So we need to get our body moving and breathing. So children need this, and children love it. I mean, when we think about, we have a whole series for autistic children. It's all stories that I'm telling, but it's training the brain to go into the alpha state, which is the state between being awake and asleep. It's the one that they're really missing. That's why they stim. When they're in high beta, they quake. And then when they become disassociated, they're in high theta, but they don't have the alpha to mitigate that or to regulate it. So what we have to do is train their brain to move within these frequencies. And children are really good at this, and they learn very quickly, and then they love it. They actually ask to do it. I mean, when you go online again to that hashtag BrainTap, you can see parents and their children are asking them to do BrainTap because they love it. They love the sensation and feeling.
And you also told me that for kids who have ADD, it's really helpful as well. And I guess it's a very good substitute than giving them pills,
right.
ADD pills.
It's kind of like digital Adderall or whatever, because most people don't realize this, but all medicine works because our brain has receptors for it. And if it works, it's because our brain responded to that supplement. So why don't we just bypass putting the supplement and just get our brain to do it? That's why we have a study in Brazil right now that's a digital drug study that the government of Brazil has spent their own money, $250,000, to prove BrainTap is a digital drug. We don't give any drugs, but what we do is we help the brain, which is the most powerful pharmacy on earth, dispense its own drugs, its own neurochemicals, which is what we want anyway, and to help to self-regulate.
Yeah. So can you tell us where the listeners can find braintap.com, and also the link, we will add it everywhere, but on the apps, anything else that you would like to add before
I think if they want to know more, they should go to @Dr. Patrick Porter, @drporter.com, because all our links are there. They can see where I'm at, what's going on, what we're doing. But the free link that you share is going to give them access where they can have 15 days free. They can get a copy of my book, Thrive and Overdrive. Whether they do anything going forward, they get to keep that book. It's a real book. It's 200 and something pages, but it'll give you a lot of information. In chapter 4, for those that want to know about the science, chapter 4 really goes into detail about the science. So if people are wondering, gosh, is this just mumbo jumbo, or is there some science behind it? They can look at that up there.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Porter, to join me. I have someone who said BrainTap is basically a healthy addiction. Yes. I don't know. Can we say healthy addiction? We can, I guess. It's a good addiction to have. Let's say that. Yes. So thank you so much for joining me today and answering all these questions. I'm sure we're going to have more questions. If I receive any questions, I will forward that to you. And my listeners, thank you so much for being here every Tuesday. And don't forget to rate and comment on Apple Podcasts. Say yes, be happy. And I see you all next week with another exciting topic and another exciting guest. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank you.
What do you have to lose? Say yes, be happy.